I'll tell you what. I just saw the cumulative grade that we have for the show.
Oh yeah, right. It's out there.
Nice, nice. That's all I'm gonna say. Oh,
I
not
also
impressed.
put the oh, since we're having trouble streaming to Facebook, this may be an issue on Facebook ends. Is it a problem? Huh. Let's see. Remove. Let's see if we can try this again. Yeah. Oh, all right. Now we're going with Facebook. Okay, we're good.
Okay, that's weird. Um,
Oh yeah. Did you update your phone to the new iOS 16 by any chance?
I did. Why do you ask?
Yeah, it's fun. Oh, now see, are you seeing that too, Nick?
What?
I'm getting another thing pop up now that trouble streaming to Facebook.
I'm not getting any of these things.
What?
Yeah, maybe it's because you're the one that created it.
I guess
Excuse me. We're on Twitter.
we are on Twitter. Yeah.
Uh,
Let's see. I'll give it one more try. Then if it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. It just went. But maybe if we lose the stream, then hey, so be it. We're in a couple different places. Catch us on
Yeah.
YouTube. Catch us on Twitter at Change My Mind Pod. Audio forms, all that good stuff. The next day.
It looks like I'm looking at Facebook right now. It looks like we're fine.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how long this goes for here.
Yeah, someone shared it too. I don't know who.
I like
Oh.
the new. I like the new layout of the iOS though. I like all the customization.
There's a lot of cool stuff because like Lauren was looking. We were at that wedding, like I told you, this past weekend. We took a picture and she was like messing around with it for her main background, and you can do so much cool stuff with it now. My only thing is the notifications now come at the bottom of the screen, and it's just like it's basically like if you had like a studio that was telling stories in one way for like I don't know, we'll call it 2 phases for a period of time, and then they go and decide to change direction completely with it. It feels like that. It's a bit of an adjustment.
I think I see the connection that you're drawing here, and I'm just gonna trace right over it. I agree. I agree here. That's good stuff. We're on our A game already here. Let's get it rocking and rolling.
Yeah, ready to roll.
All right. 3, 2, 1. When we're not swiping right on Tinder, you can be sure we're meeting in private, talking shit, and plotting our revenge against women who wronged us. I am Wesley Sykes, and to the other side of the ether is attorney at law. To my stenographer, it's Mr. Nicholas J. Esquire, legal eagle for hire.
Was Legal Eagle in the show and I just missed this?
No, I just Googled funny legal terms before hopping on here, and I thought that one came up. It rhymes. Yeah, it's good.
I'll tell you what, as a fellow Esquire myself, lawyers tend to think that they're a lot funnier than they are. It's almost like they think they should have been comedians at some point or writers, and they just never really got their chance, or they should have, could have, would have, never did. They're not actually as funny as they think.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't get what the big deal is, like the mystification of attorneys. I interviewed for a position a while back to be, a content position on with a law firm, actually a very famous law firm with a very famous lawsuit that involved pooping.
Franklin Bash?
No.
Brazilian Isles?
I was going to say Johnny Depp.
Wow.
But anyway, didn't work out. But one of the questions that the HR person were asking was like, "Is your how would you feel working with attorneys?" And I was like, I thought that was like such a weird question to ask. I was like, "Why? What's the deal with them? I don't know. Why wouldn't I want to work with them?" And I said, "Well, they can be tough to work with, and demanding and stuff." I was like, "I don't know."
Huh.
Just like anybody else, right?
Yeah, I guess I kind of can see. Well, the thing with attorneys that I've kind of learned over the years too is there are some people just in life that do don't do a lot of work and they get paid a ton, right? I mean, that's just how that's the goal, right? Attorneys are definitely attorneys definitely fall under that umbrella where they just like do a few little things. Like there's a lot of pressure in those little things, but they do a few things and then that's it, and that's their work of the day. And then they can golf all day. something like that. And maybe
So that's why your dad has such a low handicap. I like
that
that.
is how it happens. But that is a bizarre. I didn't know you did that. By the way, interviewed for that law firm.
Yeah.
That's
This
a bizarre
was
question.
like almost like a over the summer or before the summer. Yeah, somewhere around that time. But yeah, it was it was very interesting. It
That's
was
so
just
strange.
threw me for a loop.
How do you feel about working with attorneys? Well, I mean, I'm interviewing for the job. I don't have half a brain here. I know that I'm going to
do you
do
think
that.
you'd be able to work with attorneys? It was like something along those lines. I was like, yeah.
No, I just came here for friggin' exercise. What do you think?
I don't know. It threw me for a loop there, but I threw it back onto the HR person. I was like, I don't know. How do you like working with attorneys?
Did you actually?
Yeah, not in that tone, but I was like, since you asked, I was like, I don't know. You work with them. Like, what do you think? It went well. It went through the next phase, but
that's good. But yes, okay.
At that point,
yes, yeah.
We're going to be talking about lawyers, though. Nevertheless, specifically, She-Hulk attorney at law, at large or at law? No, at law.
It could be both.
Check that down, Nick. Here, it's of course the latest MCU Disney Plus show. This is starring Tatiana Maslany and Ginger Gonzaga, who I thought was really one of the bright spots in this show.
I did not know either actress's names. Shame on me. You're saying Tatiana before the show we're talking, and I thought you were saying Titania.
Very confusing, right? Yeah, it's close though. Yeah,
mixed messages. What the hell?
how can you keep it straight here? But we're going to be talking about all the highs, the lows, everything in between. Maybe in a little bit of a debate format as we get here, as we're finding out as a crow flies, Nick, because we seem to be on opposite sides of the coin here.
Yes.
Maybe better put opposite sides of the fence, because the intro question that I have for you, Nick, is how do you deal with animosity with your neighbors?
Whew.
This is it, because you got to live with them, right? But you also want to not be cucked out either.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I have yet to own a house. I previously owned a condo, so I shared hallways with people that, so I had that, but I can't say that I've ever dealt with anything that you've dealt with, I guess. But I'll tell you one weird thing that happened to me. So you have condos, right? You have a condo association. I don't think it matters if you live in a building like I do, a shared building, or like in a development. But they were doing the condo association elections shortly before I moved out of there and moved north. And this guy comes up to me, and he's like in the parking lot, and he's like, "Hey, how you live in this unit, right? Yeah. Have you been paying attention to the condo, elections or whatever?" I was like, "No, I don't, I don't give a shit. I don't pay attention to most elections." And he's like, "Oh, there's this young guy," he told me his name, I can't remember. He you should vote for him. He kind of looks like you. He's about your age. Okay. That's it. That was his pitch. He looks like you, and he's about your age. So you should vote for him. Yeah. What the fuck is that? That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
I think that's a solid pitch.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the idiot here. But why do you ask this question, Wes?
Well, I ask because, recent homeowner myself here, we've been doing a lot of work on our home, cutting down a lot of trees, opening up the backyard a little bit. So, the neighbors take an interest and whatnot, and they have dogs, one of our neighbors. Very nice. We've gotten along very well. They're a couple in their mid-50s or so. And they have 3 small dogs that just bark and bark and bark. And they live in a raised ranch, so their deck is raised up when they go out on the back, so they can see up over our fence. And every time we open the back door, whether it's us to go outside or the dogs to go outside, the dogs always get triggered by the slider door opening, and then they come out and start barking at our dogs. Now, there's white vinyl fencing, but up further in the wooded area where our property still butts, there's a chain link fence that their dogs run up and they can kind of connect. Sometimes since I've been doing clearing out of that area, now those dogs can meet at the chain link fence. And these dogs that bark all the time come up to the chain link fence, and then they start barking at our dogs, which then come up to them. They kind of have a little fence aggression little moment.
Quick time out. Is it both your dogs, or is it just Buttercup?
No, it's Buttercup, but it's both of them too. So
Okay.
neither's they're both to blame here.
Okay, well, no, it's just there's a big difference if Cody's getting involved, then like I didn't question that it was annoying, but if he's getting involved, then it's like next level annoying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Big dog. So he's probably the size of those three dogs put together. You know what I mean? Like
He's also a very patient dog.
85 pound dog. Yeah, exactly. But sometimes it's annoying. It's nonstop. These dogs bark all the time. So my mother's been staying with us as she recovers from the surgery that she has. So this last week, she's been in a neck brace, kind of on some happy pills to kind of make the pain go away and all that stuff, right? So I'm working one day last week, and I'm literally taking a shit, and Jules calls, Wes, you need to go outside, you need to handle this, and I'm taking a shit, so I literally can't do anything. I'm scrambling, pull my pants up, and I'm like, what's going on? My mom explains to me that some of the neighbors yelled at her because this instance with the dogs at the chain link fence happened again. And the wife of my neighbor was like, hey, what are you doing to my mom? Like, move over there and get the dog. Now she has to walk upstairs. She's on a neck brace. She's just recovering from surgery. She's not moving. She shouldn't really be climbing stairs to begin with. So my mom doesn't really know what's going on. But they're exchanging all of these words. They're yelling back and forth one another. My mom's upset. I'm all relayed to this information. So now I'm a little fired up. I'm already a little on edge with everything else going on, in my tiny little household here.
Sure.
So I'm like, all right, what's going on here? But so I had to go over there, knock on the door, and be like, what's up? Like, what's going on? So they come outside. We explain ourselves. We both kind of like, all right, like, what are we going to do here? Because this is not how you talk to anybody, especially my mother, who's like clearly not like in this state to respond to anything like that.
Yeah.
And, like, this is unacceptable. They apologized, didn't know the situation, what was going on. They were just kind of reacting.
Time out. She's wearing a neck brace.
I agree. But again, this is the fine line between like being stern and like, this is something that I'm not going to stand for, but I have to go out and see you every day when we take our trash out or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and they've been very nice to us and been welcomed us into like the neighborhood, like,
not to get you more fired up. You're also on your like amino acids or whatever it is you take before you work. Right. Too, so not to add more, but I just want to back you up that you were more in the right to be upset than you may feel or whatever.
So, they're saying that their dogs are losing their nails because they're jumping at the chain link fence when they meet, which doesn't happen all that time. But again, like this, my dogs aren't getting scratched or anything. So it's not like they're fighting. They're small dogs that are jumping on the chain link and then getting their hook, nails caught, and then whatever. If that happens, I don't even know. So we go through this whole thing. Like they agreed to buy barking collars for their dogs and to keep them inside when they're not home. Because the other thing is they have a doggy door that allows them to go in and out of the house whenever the owners aren't there.
Wow. This is some serious progress. Okay, good.
So so I was like, all right, and I will buy a privacy shield. You can see like baseball fields and stuff on fences, like those kind of like mesh liners that go on there that kind of like reduced. It's like it's green. It's gonna go blend right in with the brush and everything. So that was where we ended up finding the ground. But like, Nick, I'll tell you the amount of restraint that I needed, and like I don't know where it came from. Jules was very worried that I was gonna like lose my shit because I'm like in shorts and a t-shirt, like put on my like water boots, my duck boots, and I'm like, it's go time. I was like fuming for a few minutes there.
I don't.
But I was very proud of myself. I didn't lose it. Didn't lose my cool, but I was firm. I stood my ground.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like
ended with a handshake.
I am. You deserve congrats. Seriously, like sounds like you handled yourself perfectly.
That's democracy.
Like that, and based on the results too, I think you not only handled yourself like, not kindly, but like you were cordial or whatever. But also at the same time, you said you were firm. Like it sounds like you did it all. Like you hit a home run on this one, grand slam, even in fact.
It was like, in like old school when Will Ferrell has that great answer in the debate and he's like, what happened? I blacked out. It was like almost like one of those moments. Like it was a divine intervention. I don't know what came over me.
All time like movie moment too. Like I definitely have had times where someone was like, like, hey, great job, whatever. And I was like, what just happened? I blacked out. Like that is an amazing moment. I feel like gets overlooked fairly easily.
Absolutely. A great moment as well. And if you have any good moments or bad moments with your neighbors and how to deal with it, please hit us up. I would love to hit us up. We'll read them on the podcast or reply on Twitter at Change My Mind Pod. Let me know what to do, in the future, because I may not always be graced with that patience, every time.
I'll tell you what, I think Wes did an outstanding job, and I don't think he needs help. I want to hear what you would have done if you were in his situation. You got these three little howlers yelping at your dogs, one of which is a very good boy. The other one also not a bad dog, but a little bit more hyper. And then you have your poor mother who's going through a lot and has a neck brace. I don't know the situation, but she's wearing a friggin' neck brace.
Yeah.
I would just like to know how you all would handle that situation, and give us your worst bits of advice you could give Wes for this.
And in the midst of all that, when I'm telling them that they're, the dogs bark all the time, when we let the dogs out, and it's like, we can't even do stuff in our backyard without them, barking. I was like, is that fair to us? Like, is that something that we should have to deal with? And they say to me, well, it's like, if they're barking when we're not there, then just take your hose and spray them and tell them to shut up. And I'm like, these are not my dogs. This is your responsibility. You have to take care of it. Like, this is not how it's going to, I'm not going to do that.
When you're talking about the nails thing, I'm just like, I'm hearing in my head, like this is someone like saying like, my kid did this dumb thing because your kid did this dumb thing. And it's like, well,
yeah, I'm going to have to get ready for that. Like that's it's a precursor, right?
But like my kid was a moron and he got lucky, but your kid's also a moron. Like my kid being a moron is my fault, but your kid being a moron is no one's fault but yourself. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And can't we both be the adults here and be like, listen, they're dogs or they're kids, and whatever metaphor you want to use here.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just both shake hands, walk away, like whatever. Which is what happened, which was good. And again, I'm not talking shit on them. I'm just relaying a stressful situation because they have been great to us.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like they ended up handling it all well after the fact, but the excuse of, I didn't know the situation, I'm sorry. It's just like when you say my mom had a neck brace, I don't care. She could be like slurring her words or whatever, and they can make all the assumptions she wants, but she has a neck brace. Like there's something going on there where it's like, let's just.
Oh, Nick, and to be able to have that, we'll talk with this a little bit, that victimhood card to play. And knowing that card was up my sleeve and being able to play that at any moment in the conversation and knowing that was going to tilt in my favor when I played that card. I couldn't wait. It came out very early and the whole conversation changed,
Amazing. Seriously, well done. It's like, that sounds like condescending. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Tough, yeah.
Like we've all been there in that moment where we have someone who's important to us, where they got treated like shit, and like sometimes we don't handle it well. So like the moments where you handle yourself like an actual adult, it's should be recognized.
Yeah, well, again, sometimes we live in a democracy. We live in a civilized society. We all need to act as such sometimes here. So can't guarantee it every time, though.
No.
Speaking of guarantees, I don't know here as we shift over to trending now, we have maybe some news. I'm not sure what to make of this because of the two characters, I think is appropriate to say, involved here. Sacha Baron Cohen is reportedly to star as Mephisto in the upcoming Ironheart series on Disney Plus, where I believe the slated villain of the show, the Hood, played by Anthony Ramos, is going to make some sort of deal or bargain with Mephisto. But like I said, Sacha Baron Cohen, known trickster, and we've been okey-doked before with Mephisto and WandaVision and whatnot, and to some degree with the Doctor Strange too, right? I think there was some scuttlebutt about him appearing there early on. But nevertheless, this seems kind of like an odd pairing.
It does seem it does, but at the same time, if Disney or Marvel Studios wants to continue to get goofy and get weird with some things, and we saw them just kind of get weird with some stuff in She-Hulk, we see them do it in other places, but especially in She-Hulk, Sacha Baron Cohen is a way to do that, where it's like you want this evil, manipulative, like badass dude to come in and fuck up the entire MCU, and it's like, yeah, and that's going to be played by Sacha Baron Cohen. Like, no, like that, you're not getting that same kind of character. There's going to be some goofiness and there's some involved in that. Sure, there'll be trickery, but I think that would be very interesting. I would love to see Sacha Baron Cohen take on this role. It's going to be very, very different Mephisto than people were originally expecting. But I think it could work really well. And then with the Hood, this is a character who I don't know a whole hell of a lot about, but we've seen him obviously in Marvel Contest of Champions. I'm sure you saw him there.
That's
as well.
all I know him from. Yeah.
Love the name, obviously very close to Red Hood, but love the look on this character too, and he's like a mystical character and everything. So someone I will probably look into more.
I think he's a magician who shoots guns, which is kind of a cool crisscross there. I'm kind of here for that. But, you know, I think my mind automatically goes to Borat when I think of Sacha Baron Cohen and Talladega Nights and the comedic roles. But I think, you know, there could be a chance here where he takes more, if this is true, he takes more of a serious role. I think some of his more recent stuff that he's done has been like a little bit more serious ilk.
I guess I just haven't seen all of it. Last thing I saw him in was Borat too. So
yeah, I think there was some movie where he might have been like a Mossad agent or something like is something to do with Israel that I think was like maybe a government or something like that. But I think he maybe directed or produced and starred in something to that effect. But
if he doesn't do it, get Jim Carrey to come out of retirement and have him do it, and have him also lean into the goofiness. I'd like that. Now I just want a goofy character. That's all I want.
We're off the rails right now. We're getting real goofy. No goofing around here. Harrison Ford to play Red Hulk / William Hurt in place of I have William Hurt. I forget the guy's name there.
Was that not? Thunderbolt Ross.
Thunderbolt Ross. William Hurt is the actor's name. That's what William Hurt sounds like a general's name there. That's why I was kind of thrown off there. So he's going to play Red Hulk Thunderbolt Ross in place of William Hurt, who passed away in the upcoming movie Captain America 4: New World Order. This feels like a good replacement here, a good filler. I kind of can see this because Harrison Ford's kind of like an old son of a bitch anyway.
Yes, so this is also a report that is it confirmed? This one was.
I think it got confirmed today as a crow flies Monday this afternoon. But I know there were rumors swirling around as early as a couple weeks ago. I think we might have mentioned it in a couple episodes ago, or maybe we had it in our show notes and just didn't get to it. But
and we also saw him with like Brie Larson and a few other people in the MCU at one of those, like, I don't know if it was San Diego Comic-Con or if it was D23, something to that end. So it all kind of like the tea leaves, it all kind of makes sense. And in terms of casting, I think this makes a ton of sense. I mean, the thing that was so tough is you had why am I blanking on T'Challa's the actor who played T'Challa's
Chadwick Boseman.
When Chadwick Boseman passed, of course, we were all like, everybody reacted, was like, you can't recast the character. You want to bring back Black Panther, but it can't be T'Challa. And I do understand that. We all understood that because of how iconic he was for the role and how pivotal he was, and just everything that's gone on over the past few years. What Chadwick Boseman had done in that role, you couldn't go and recast him. It was different than William Hurt, but we also started hearing the same similar
William
kind
Hurt's
of
a bit character, you know.
Exactly. He was a smaller character who, yes, we all know from the comics, but he really hadn't been fleshed out a whole heck of a lot. I mean, he was in the Edward Norton Hulk, but it was not to the same degree as what we'd seen Chadwick Boseman do on the big screen. And just from a social standpoint, Chadwick Boseman had done so much more. So there's a different importance to the role. So to go and just completely take out Thunderbolt Ross out of the equation, to me, was just like, okay, if that's the direction they go, I'm going to accept it. I understand it. But like at the same time, if I was calling shots, I wouldn't go that route. And Harrison Ford, I do think, is a good pivot into that, to that role and casting and everything like that. I agree with you.
Make 100%. It happen. This is great. Great A casting. Keep the character in there. Keep Thunderbolt Ross. Introduce Red Hulk. I think people and fans have been clamoring that for some time. Looks like we're going to get a World War Hulk movie. So maybe that gets involved in there. Maybe he winds up in the Thunderbolts too. You know, so it's cool. A lot of interesting stuff coming on there. Black Adam releases in theaters this week. Did you know that?
I did, but mainly because you have it in our show schedule, because we're going to talk about it next week.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at there. Are we reviewing this next?
That was the plan.
Okay.
I think that, that's been the plan for the
while. All right, that's what we're going to do then. Yeah, all right. So I can't wait for Black Adam. I'm stoked.
Woo! Yes. Yeah. Well, I forget who I wrote this or whatever, but someone said, I'm excited for Black Adam so we can stop hearing The Rock talk about Black Adam.
Yeah, yeah, they have been really drawing blood from a stone there. Am I right? Trying to get every dollar they can out of him. They're maximizing his reach. I'm just excited maybe to go back to a theater. What was the last movie? Jurassic Park, Top Gun, Thor.
I went
Probably
for, yeah,
Thor.
for MCU stuff, yeah. But I think I've seen some stuff since then. But
Oh,
I'll
but
tell you,
you had that theater right next to you, right? That's
yes, the dine-in
yeah,
theater, Chunky's.
hmm
Yes, yeah. Nothing to
the
do with it. I think you
Chunkies,
should
right?
leave, just so everybody knows.
If they
But
were smart, they would rebrand.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this just because it's a superhero movie. We have no shortage of superhero content now, but it's DC stuff. I can't remember the last DC thing we got. Must have been the Batman. Or no, it's Harley Quinn
Mm-hmm.
too as well, but that's not obviously not a movie. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
The Rock's definitely tried to do a lot. And his whole thing about like bringing Henry Cavill and saying he listened to the fans, I don't know how much say he had in that necessarily, or how much he was like a
He's
liaison in
taking
it.
credit for it.
If he's taking credit for it, I mean, I'm hoping there's some truth to that. That'd be kind of weird if not. So I respect that, and I'm like, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm cautiously optimistic, but like, I'm ready to receive this movie.
Yeah,
Because
it'll be a movie with some big splashes that I get to see on a big screen. Maybe have some overpriced popcorn. It'll be fun.
I don't want to assign a grade before I've seen a second of it, but I do have an idea of my ballpark. But I'm just gonna keep that to myself right now. And I'll let you
Okay.
guys know.
All right. Here, how about this for a little bit more rumors here? This could get the nipples titillating a little bit here. Spider-Man 4, of course, for Tom Holland, not the Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire products, but some Spider-Man 4 rumors surrounding that the events of Echo, as well as Daredevil Born Again, will lead up to this fourth web-slinger film. Maybe you can help me with this comic book run, but I believe it might be inspired from this Spider-Man Daredevil team up where Kingpin becomes like the mayor or the president of some political.
Well, that's a lot of recent stuff. Well, actually, did he get elected twice? But like Kingpin was recently the mayor of New York, and I believe Matt Murdock was at one point as well.
Oh,
actually, in Marvel Comics right now, Luke Cage is the mayor of New York, and Kingpin was just moved out. But I can't remember if Kingpin was there a second time. Anyways, I that would be awesome. I think that makes a ton of sense. Having Spider-Man and Daredevil working together. I mean, this is something we've seen in comics quite a bit. So it makes perfect sense that you're going to have Daredevil lead up to that. And of course, Echo, her relation to Kingpin, it only makes sense to bring all these characters together in some capacity. And Kingpin, I believe Kingpin was originally a Spider-Man villain, and then he became Daredevil's #1 guy. So yeah, it makes perfect sense, and I would love to see that. Like Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, and then Charlie Cox as Daredevil, who we'll talk about more later. They should absolutely be on the big screen in these roles. I mean, they're absolutely outstanding characters, and so yeah, they've done such a good job with them both. So yeah, give me this 100%, please.
Yeah, I would say anything that gets back to a more grounded Spider-Man is good news here. Of course, where we left off with Tom Holland, he's just going to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man fighting low-level criminals and whatever. So I think you're getting back to the basics there, because that I think would be a fair criticism of the sequel and the third Spider-Man movies. You just get a little bit big, right? They go to Europe and then to the multiverse, right? So to get that a little bit more grounded and then have that interacted with another ground level cult hero, cult fan favorite like Daredevil. I think that will be a great pairing. Again, living up to the comics there.
So a slight sidestep from all this, I guess, and not to get ahead of into our exit survey, but we one thing that we've talked about quite a bit, when we're looking at the MCU in Phase 4 and the shows and everything, is how we're getting a lot of stuff that that isn't necessarily moving the larger MCU conversation forward, right? And it's not, maybe some stuff will come up down the line and be like, oh, okay, yeah, you did all these different things, but it just really doesn't seem like the breadcrumbs are quite as obvious as they were previously. And I wonder, Wes, when you bring up how we have a more grounded Spider-Man, if we had done that and then pivoted into the Hawkeye story, which then leads to Echo, which then leads to Daredevil, in doing a lot more of that grounded stuff that way would have been a better way to ease people into not just more grounded stuff and kind of take you away from the multiverse, but also then make it a little bit easier to take in some of these stories that don't progress the MCU larger story forward, because like we're kind of moving away. Spider-Man reset things for us a little bit. Do you think that would have
Yeah,
made
I see where you're going there, and I wonder how that would work with
frustrating?
Infinity War and Endgame and everything, where they are going out of space. And how do you leave out Spider-Man? Yeah,
Mhm.
just from a branding standpoint, like you got to have Spider-Man
Yeah,
in there for all the fan and the audience sake,
sure.
right? So it's like I feel like that's kind of a tough workaround. But I think that's like, again, if that wasn't an issue, if you were to introduce Spider-Man after the fact, and I think that's a great way to kind of do it.
You're right. When I'm saying that, I mean it's not even to like have all that stuff happen without Spider-Man. It's just have Spider-Man kind of reset things for you as a larger, like I guess, brand or company, whatever. So
Ah.
then that slows up our role a little bit on like, all right, let's go with the multiverse stuff. You've already teased it a little bit, but now we're slowing down because of what's going on with Spider-Man, and he's at the center of everything.
I see. Again, I think I'd be here for it, but with Sony being at the helm,
I
right? You're not really like
I
at
always,
the
God damn it.
you kind of have to work with what they're working with, right?
That and yeah, I mean, there's people smarter
It's
than us working
messy.
at Marvel, and that's probably I guess they're probably the ones that remember. Oh yeah, Sony's being a thorn in
Yeah,
our side.
yeah.
Well,
Like, oh shit, we can't do that, right? Yeah.
God damn it,
You really liked Rings of Power, huh? So the
dude,
Amazon Prime product.
dude. Oh my God, it was so good. It's so good to the point where I'm not just questioning how I feel about the House of the Dragon or House of the Dragons, whatever. I'm questioning how I feel about Game of Thrones on the whole,
Oh
because
wow,
I love Lord of the Rings. Obviously, we had our great debate with Billy D and Dr. Joe a while back about
sure.
Harry Potter versus Lord of the Rings. Coming into this show, I thought, okay, like I'm ready for it. It's going to be fun, but like I just have no fucking clue what to expect. I tried reading the Silmarillion as a kid, or however you call it. I couldn't do it. Like it was tough enough for me to, just prose has not always been my friend over the years because my brain wanders. But I love what they did with characters that we know that we've only know so much about. And then there's just the twists that they have involved this and the epicness. Like if you don't like Lord of the Rings epicness, like like how they kind of get like so fantastical, then you're probably not gonna like the show. But if you like Lord of the Rings, like if that is your fucking shit, this it captures all of that so well. And that was for me. That was what was going on early on, and then it just fucking ramps up to 10, like 10 in like midway through. I would say some of the action's great. The twists are outstanding. I was telling you Wes about them before the show.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but I'm going to talk about this more in depth as we pivot into the comic book minute.
Oh, please pivot away.
We're going to talk about that on TLDR this week, actually,
Ooh,
rebranding as TLDW. Too long didn't watch this
that's
week.
tough.
We
It's tough
will,
to say.
yes, we will be doing that this week, of course, Dr. Joe and I, and we will be having a third friend of the DSG on the show to talk about that. I think he's particularly excited to get
Oh,
involved in the conversation. But
who may I ask? Who?
can I tell you off air?
Oh, it's a surprise. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess. Yeah.
it's the other Billy D.
Oh, it's the other Billy D.
Yes, Joe hasn't been saying
Oh,
it,
that's
so
awesome.
yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, welcome, other Billy D.
Yes, so it'll be fun. The better Billy D, some would say.
Some might.
But as for the comics this week, we will still be hitting on the comics getting released this week. We got from Marvel, Crypt of the Shadows issue 1, Midnight Suns issue 2, which issue 2 it's so like it was. I don't read the Strange Academy stuff, and you kind of have to have, I think, some knowledge. So that might have been the problem. DC Nightwing 97, amazing title, another amazing issue. The final issue of Batman the Night, issue 10 by a friend of TLDR, Chip Zdarsky, of course, talk about Daredevil.
Mm.
Right, he did all the Devil's Reign stuff when Kingpin was the mayor and everything like that.
Oh,
So
there we go. You got to have him back soon then.
yes, and then we have from Image Above Snakes from friend of the show, Sean Lewis, Gunslinger Spawn issue 13, and then speaking of Chip Zdarsky, one of his other books that he's working on, he's drawing this as well, Public Domain issue 5. If you find if you get interested by the business side of things when it comes to comics and movies and whatnot, this is definitely something for you guys to pick up. Not a whole lot of action, but the commentary and the insight that you get in it, I think, is quite interesting.
I see. All right.
That's it, Wes.
That's it. I love it here. Now let's get down to brass tacks, shift gears, downshift into the main topic.
Okay.
She-Hulk exit survey. We're getting off the highway here. Synopsis. I'm going to throw it over to you, Nick, because I believe I'm still losing reading the cast and crews.
That is true. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Walters navigates the complicated life of a single 30-something attorney who happens to be a green 6'7" super-powered Hulk.
All right. This was created for television by Jessica Gao, starring Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk. We have Ginger Gonzaga as Nikki Ramos. We have Jamila Jamil as Titania. Steve Coulter as Holden Holloway. Renee Elise Goldsberg as Mallory Book. Josh Zagara as Pug. That's what we're going with, right, Pug?
Pug, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Tim Roth as Abomination or Emil Blonsky. Mark Lynn Baker as Morris Walters. John Bass as Todd Phelps, a.k.a. the Hulk King. Drew Matthews as Dennis Bukowski, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner the Hulk, Benedict Wong as Wong, and of course Charlie Cox, the one and only, as Matt Murdock, Daredevil.
God, man. I'll tell you what, too. Just a little thing for the people who are watching on our stream. My brother got me this for Christmas. Or was it not this year, but the
yellow
year before.
Suit, huh?
Yes. And I actually do have a little Marvel Legends Daredevil in the yellow suit as well. So good time to be a fan of that outfit. I love the classic red, but
it kind of looks like he's wearing a halter top. Like he's got spaghetti straps on.
Oh
there?
Yeah, this is the old school shit. That's why this isn't the recent stuff. Yeah, it is. It is definitely a different look than we're used to.
That's interesting. Sure. He's wearing like a ballerina unitard.
I like that, but I love Charlie Cox's. I think the normal red in the comics is the best. But I would go as far to say that this yellow one that he has in She-Hulk is better than his red from Netflix. Maybe it's recency bias, but that's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
It looks good. It's like, it's tough. I think if you want to be lurking in the shadows and doing everything much kind of like Batman, you would want darker tones. You wouldn't want the yellow to pop in the darkness, So I think that's maybe one functionality there. But fashionably speaking, I think it looks great.
Yeah,
I don't want to besmirch the work of the tailor, the MCU tailor there. Who was that guy?
I wouldn't besmirch any tailors on either of these shows because they're both pretty unstable individuals.
That's true.
Yeah. As for the critics, She-Hulk received a 5.1 out of 10 on IMDb, an 80. This is huge, 87-35 split on Rotten Tomatoes, a 2.0 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 50% of the Google users liking this series. Wes,
pretty divided, much like this will be here. So as we get into the score and tweet length reviews, we'll just remove the veil right away. I'll remove the Band-Aid. 55 out of 100. Start off something nicer. This may have some of the best Easter eggs in a Disney Plus product to date. I think that was a pretty good opportunity for the show that it took some advantage of. But this was by far the worst MCU product to date. It felt directionless and scared to dive fully into much of the topics that they scratched the surface on, as evidenced by the finale, just completely ditching everything that they did just to break the fourth wall or something. But this was also a very bold decision to make victimhood a superhero's, if not main, but pretty primary character trait here. That was a bold decision as well. I think the Marvel behind the scenes crew did no favors to the actors in this. Just felt like it was very lazily put together production.
Okay. And as you said just a second ago, we feel very differently on this.
Yes.
I'm more on the critic side on Rotten Tomatoes, as much as I've said a lot about Rotten Tomatoes over the years. 84 is my score out of 100 on this one. I thought this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of laugh out loud moments in the course of the show. As Wes pointed out, loads of Easter eggs, no shortage of that. I mean, you just look at the the getaway thing, the getaway. I can't remember what that episode was, but where Emil Blonsky has his whole like setup with all the different Marvel characters who like are just kind of like D-E-listers.
Oh, I see. Yeah. The therapy session.
Thank you. Jeez, dude. Retreat was the word I was looking for.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got
you.
Yeah.
But fuck. Anyways, and this, I mean, this show is as meta as it gets. I think we talk about fourth wall stuff. I mean, obviously,
that I agree with.
Deadpool has a ton of that, and this more than that. And we'll get into that a little bit more because I think there's when you talk about the ending, there's some stuff there. I don't know that you'll necessarily agree with me, but when we talk about meta, as I was thinking about the show after the fact, there's like that is extremely meta how they handled that.
Yeah, I think yes, I agree with the meta-ness. Meta-ness?
Yeah, I think you're right.
How meta it was. How about we go with that there?
We're not going to agree on a lot of stuff here, so we're going to agree on that one.
Let's get all the agreements out of the way now.
Yeah, fuck.
And these burps here, which we got a couple compliments on the flatulence side here, the addition of flatulence. So I think that's going to be a nice guest. Maybe a third voice here as we move forward. But with that 84 from Nick, that 55 from me, that brought it. Nick teased it a little bit earlier. Rock solid, 69.5. Far and away the lowest rated show that we've done. I will hand up, take all the credit for that.
Yeah, you get 100% of the credit for that. And I do find it interesting though that both our two lowest grades are the only two titles that are Hulk. Like where
that's
Hulk
interesting.
Was the lead.
Yeah, that is interesting there. We got that. So you have this as an 84 right off the rip. So I want to see what are some other things that you had at 84 here that you see it with. First Captain America, First Avengers in 83.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm comfortable putting that high in there. I don't think I have much more in that mid
80s 81 range. Iron Man 3, Age of Ultron.
I like it more than Iron Man 3. I like it more than Age of Ultron. I like it more than Iron Man 2. I think okay. The second question there will be some explanation as to why it's part of where it's at. I mean, obviously I like it, but there's a reason why it's not like for me, I did contemplate like a little bit higher of a grade, but there were certain things that I had to take significant points off for and brought it down to an 84. But Wes, I mean, we start off with the basic question. I think the people know the answer.
Yeah, I think we can just completely bypass it. I think the grades give that away right there, right? Yep. So don't even need the primer. But let's get into the episode breakdown here. Yep. What was your favorite episode of the season? I'll just run through them real quick for you. Episode 1, A Normal Amount of Rage. Episode 2, Superhuman Law. 3 is the People versus Emil Blonsky. 4, Is This Not Real Magic? Episode 5, Mean Green, Straight Poured Into These Jeans. Mm-hmm. What is straight poured? I didn't understand that. I'm out of the loop on that one. Episode 6 is Just Jen. 7 is The Retreat. 8 is Ribbit and Rip It. And episode 9, the finale, is Whose Show Is This?
And all these grades that we have, Wes, are from IMDb, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And I said all this freaking talk that I was going to have stuff pulled up, and what I was so thrown off by, in some of the conversation, like in some of the breakdowns, like the older, like old men, like they actually seemed more positive on this show throughout the course of it, and I was surprised that, I think it was the really younger men were also like very much against it. I'm not talking like our age.
On the demographic breakdown of IMDb.
I was surprised. I would have thought a lot of like the old dudes. I mean, again, I don't know how many. I forget how many people like are going through each of these episodes and ranking them. But I just would think that would be of all the audiences. I would think they would be the ones who would dislike it the most. But
so it was just to follow. I pulled it up real quick. 140,000, 140,631 viewers here from all ages. For women, 6.8 overall, but only 6,800 votes so far, and the most represented group is women 30 to 44 with a 6.8, and that's just around 3,000, a little more than 3,000 votes.
6.8
in comparison for the male demographic, which had all ages of 50,000. The most represented group was 18 to 29 with about 10,500, giving that a 4.8. But to your credit, what you were saying, the eldest 45 and over, not very well represented, about 9,000 votes, but gave that a 5.5. So highest rated, but still kind of within the average.
I'm surprised though that was the highest rated of the group. That was that I was, I don't know. I mean, I guess in the end, when you start talking grades though, this is the thing. Like when you start getting down into like the doldrums, it's like, okay, if it's a 5, like well, actually, see, I say that, but I do wonder how many people actually gave it a 5, because the thing that jumped out to us really early on, Wes, like to your credit, you're giving it a 5 and 55, and like that's your grade. But we saw a lot of 1s and a lot of 10s when all this stuff came out early on, right?
Yeah. So right now there is 46,751 people who gave that a 1 star. So that's 33%.
Right.
The 10-star is 19,685 at 14%. So almost a 2 to 1.
Okay. But regardless, this was not a 10 out of 10, because when we look at these episodes, that this is where this show lost a lot of points for me. The mean green and straight poured into these jeans, and the retreat. As much as I enjoyed those Easter eggs in the retreat, those were the 2 worst episodes in this show by far. And I watched those episodes and I was like, oh, this is like the first 4. I really liked it. I thought it was going in a good direction. And then I felt like with the 5th one, I'm like, oh, that was kind of a letdown. Then I loved Just Jen, the wedding episode. Of course, we have I'm blanking on the actress's name.
Patty Jenkins.
Who's from I Think You Should Leave. She's in that episode. Tatiana's in it and everything. And I had a lot of fun with that episode. And that's the lowest rated one on the show. And then the retreat, again, I was like, not as bad as 5, but just didn't do it for me. Those were serious points lost in this show for me, and why difference between maybe like a B- and like possibly a B+ or something to that end. But those 1s and 10s, Wes, like I know you didn't like the show, but do you understand people giving it a 1?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was bad. Again, this is the worst thing that I've seen that we've reviewed seriously all year.
Okay.
Yeah, it just didn't do it for me. And again, I think that bears out. I think you're going to have your trolls there, but I think you're going to have people on either side of the fence who are also just really want to get their point across one way or the other. So that's where the 10 to 1 come into play. That's also my thought. So, and again, my 5 is a 1, and maybe in other people's definitions too, right? So it's all interpretive.
That's fair. I mean, but it's just you know what? I guess in the end, like you're not giving it a 1, like because like I'm not either, obviously, because like I just think in the end, like a 1. I don't know. We know there's a pretty significant difference between this and a 1. And again, like the same thing in the other end of the spectrum. This is not a 10. This is not a 10 out of 10 series. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it, but it was not without its flaws. You look at those 2 episodes, and it's just like I don't.
So, what was your favorite?
Oh, there's no question. It was the Daredevil episode, Ribbit and Rip It. No question.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the only one that maybe that I held in enjoyment for it was the first episode, where my optimism was still high. So that's that. I think that also played into it. It's like, all right, we'll see where this goes here. Before we get into a little bit more of the details, we'll start in the present moment here. What'd you think of the finale? Of course, here with the introduction of Kevin, and I think that might have been a 16th or 38th, 40th wall break. I'm not sure what my multiples of 4 are here. I'm kind of losing it. The Disney Plus screen, but what did you think of the finale?
I don't think you could have gotten more meta with this. Like in the moment, I'm thinking, okay, this is funny. I'm also thinking a lot of people are going to be annoyed with this because you're essentially. I heard your voice, like you're yada 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 the ending, right? Did you think that?
I didn't even think. I didn't think they yada yada the ending. I think they yada yada the season.
Oh, interesting.
Like everything. Like what was the whole point of the season if they just erased it and none of it matters, and then they just get their happy ending.
I think. Okay.
What was the point of watching it?
Well, I mean, I think partially was some of the commentary that was on it. And I think also again the comedy, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Like, let me just the finale, where I think this is meta is you are essentially with that, like you said, you're rewriting the ending that they were getting, and then it's juxtaposed against the incels that you have in the course of the show, right? Where like that guy, what was his name again? Hulk King or whatever the hell his name was.
The Phelps guy. Yeah.
Yes. He's getting what he wants in the end, and it's like, what the fuck? And then Bruce comes in out of friggin' nowhere, and why is that happening? And
but they know all of that. They set all of that up. This wasn't just something that happened. Like the writers made a decision to take you down that road, and then be like, why are we doing this? So like, then why even do it in the first place?
First, two things. First, they did not set up that Hulk King guy to be able to have this power. They said like that's I was blown away. I thought he was going to explode or something like that because Bruce said it. Me and you have like this special ability where we can, or something in our DNA allows us to take in the gamma. So I thought he was going to like explode or die, melt. What I don't know what gamma rays are supposed to do to people, but I thought something was going to happen. But this is why I say, like, when I look at him, like this, as I think about it even more, it's like this is as meta as it gets because we have all these people who are complaining about She-Hulk getting like these powers and she didn't earn them. She doesn't deserve them and blah, 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 all this stuff. Fuck her. Right. But then in the end, like those are the same people who look at it and say like, this isn't like why, like this show should like, I say this and I'm not talking about you're having a healthy conversation, but the people who get vicious about some shows and some, movies and whatnot, we don't get like that. Where they're like, you shouldn't have written it this way. You shouldn't have ended it that way, whatever. Like we usually take the story for what it is. It's the larger MCU that sometimes run into issues. I hear this. I see what she did here. And it's like, this is the same stuff that people want to do all the time on Twitter, on other shows, not in the DSG, where it's like, it shouldn't be this way. And she went and is going against these guys and then did exactly what they want to do all the time and rewrote it for exactly how she wanted it to. So that's where it's like, and in the moment, I'll be honest, I didn't catch all that. But as you posed this question to me, I was thinking about it because I liked it. But then it was like, wow, there's a whole nother level to this. And again, maybe it's a little too big brain for people because I'm not catching that in the fucking moment. I don't know if everybody else is, but it was a lot.
It's so big that no one liked it. It's the worst reviewed show in Marvel history.
Did what I say make sense though?
I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I guess that's all you're going. If again, you feel like they're going at very long lengths.
Yes.
To like own a good portion of their audience, like people who are paying to like keep this afloat.
And I understand like there's a lot of thought in my explanation on that, and whether or not you think it's I
see what you're saying. I think that was well. I think you got there nicely.
I appreciate that. I more meant the royal, not you, Wes. But like the royal, if you think I'm trying to go that extra mile. But one thing that Wes and I talked about when we were first doing these episode by episode, just touching on it and trending now. You talked about how they're taking jabs at people left and right, people who have been fans of the show and whatnot, whatever. I'm sorry, fans of the MCU and everything. But for them to go this far, yes, maybe it's like a couple extra steps from what they've been doing, but it's still kind of on brand for what they're doing. They're taking shots at. I feel like.
Is that good? Is that good to make fun of the fan base that supports you and like it essentially helps you have a platform?
This is where I feel different. Like, this is where I feel differently than you, or one of the ways I feel differently, I guess. Okay. I don't think they're taking a shot at every man. I don't think they're taking a shot at the average MCU fan. I think they're taking shots at the guys who take it seriously in a negative way, because there are some people. Some could argue we take it seriously. We fucking podcast about this shit.
Sure. Oh yeah. We plan this out. We talk. We organize it. Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, you and I, like when we see each other or whatever, like we don't like this is not something we have to talk about all the time. We do a show, we have fun with it, and we text about it, and that's it. And we have a show doc and whatever. But like we're not like. Like we're not going to go and have all these crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have a Hulk Pro 32 account on Reddit that's just besmirching everything here. I definitely don't do that on my weekends or when I'm taking a shit or anything like that. No, certainly not.
Well, this is why you were fired up going into that fence conversation.
Yeah, that's why I got so much ammo. No,
are you hulking? Jesus.
Yeah, I might be. I might hulking.
But that's where I differ, and I understand what you're saying. How like that's still taking a shot at part of your fan base.
But I think you're inviting this here because then what you're doing is then you're emboldening, as much as there's a toxic fan base that's negative to it, there's also a toxic fan base that's almost like an army for the MCU. That's always going to defend it. And so I think you have both sides there that are willing to go at arms, right? And like, you know, pull their arrows back and ready to go. But by Marvel, the one who's supposed to be kind of like above it all, like taking shots at a certain one side of the fandom, isn't that making it okay? So then now that, like, say for me, for example, like I have criticisms of the show. I don't like this show. I gave it a 55. How easy for someone to just write off anything that I say throughout this episode and was like, he's just an incel misogynist bro that they're doing here. You know, that they're talking about here. So then what does that do? That keeps me quiet from expressing my opinion. Then what do? Then you don't get the negativity anymore, because the big bad Marvel sent all their fan base out to stomp out anyone who disagreed with their decisions on making content.
Those are fair points, and I guess really anybody who's writing Wes off as he and I are talking.
I mean, I'm just using me as an example, but I mean, I'm just saying, like,
that.
For anyone who doesn't feel the extreme way, but it was like, this show sucked.
I think I hear what you're saying, and I think in the end, you know, we're gonna have people who agree. I hope that with our show, we have some people agree with you, some people agree with me. I feel like that's usually how it is, because we usually come at things from as much as there's similar landing spots. Sometimes we come from it at different angles, different reasons that we appreciate stuff. I think in the end, like, what matters is how you talk about it too. You can feel negative about shit, like. I'm trying to think here. Oh, like you guys, like the DSG on the whole, like, doesn't like animated stuff quite as much as I might, or as much as Shine might necessarily. But then sometimes you guys go and like stuff. Like, it's also about how you talk about things. I guess I don't know why I went that way, but it's about how you talk about things. And we're having, and that's the difference. Like, you're willing to entertain my stuff, whether or not you agree with it or whatever is one thing, but you're willing to entertain some of it, listen to my line of logic and hear it, whether or not you agree with the end, whatever. But like, we can have civil conversations about this stuff. So I hear what you're saying. I don't think you should try and shut down anybody's opinion, but I do think that there's a way to go about this stuff, I guess, is what it comes down to. And we don't go about it in whether it's hardcore positive or hardcore negative. We don't do that. I don't think.
I'm sorry, I muted you. What'd you say?
Yeah. Well played. That's
I usually just mute you when you're talking, then wait for the lips to stop moving. Then I just go on and say what I said.
Keep drinking your lame ass Corona over there, all right?
That's not a Corona. It's a Miller High Life. It's champagne of beer.
Oh, so much better. Yeah, of course. I'm going to enjoy my 603 IPA as we both try and be on brand as possible.
Aside from myself here, who is the villain of this show, Nick?
I mean, Intelligentsia's, I guess, the end of it. Again, I see it as a specific group of individuals who are made up primarily of men, but I think you see it as a larger thing.
Well, okay, so I mean, if we're talking about it within the show world, yes, very literally, the Intelligentsia is the villains of this, which is then on its face value, again, a little disappointing. I know this is going to be a small stakes show, but like, this is very, very small stakes, which we'll get into a little bit later, which makes me kind of wonder, like, how is she used in the future? How does she interact or overlap into other movies and stuff like that? Because it is so small. And like, I know Miss Marvel was on the small scale, but she's got like cosmic powers and shit, right? And she's so whatever. But anyway, men in general, aside from the incels and the groups that you're talking about, I think the overall jabs that just come at like every male, like I feel like this is whoever has this bad of experience with men on dating, like, I'm sorry, like whoever got together in the writing room to go through that dating montage for Jennifer Walters there to go through, and like not one is even redeemable in any sort of way. Even the guy that they meet at the handsome guy, right? The handsome Asian guy at the wedding. Who's like charming, and they go off, they kind of have like a thing, and then they end up, doing it or whatever. Like, then he just goes through. So there's like, not outside of maybe the father, Jen's dad, like not any really good male characters.
Pug. Oh, he's dope.
He's a dope. Poor Pug. Like, he needs Nikki Ramos, who I think is in the show a lesbian, to be in his ear to how to talk to men.
Yeah,
he can't even talk to other dudes. He doesn't even know what to say.
I'll tell you what, when I look back on how I got down 16 points off of 100. I mean, I start off at a 95, and you have to earn those extra 5 points to get above that.
Sure. I like that. Okay, that's good. It's good grading.
But when I look at, I guess, the points that were lost in the course of it, the big things for me were those two episodes I talked about. Episode 5 and episode 7 were huge. Just like episode 5 and 7. I don't understand how this, like, they just seem so off from everything else. But the other thing that threw me off was Pug, because I had no problem with.
It was like a tonal shift.
That I need to go back and rewatch this. I should have done it before our conversation. But when we first see Pug, he seemed put together. Now, I talked to Lauren because she watched this with me the whole way, and she said, no, you just, like, he was a dope at first too, because I thought he was like a serious, like nice guy. Obviously,
I got that too. Like, he welcomes her, like he's like kind of like debonairish, like dressed into the 3-piece suit, put together well. He comes in with like a welcome basket, and it's like, anything you need, I'm here to help. But it wasn't like subby, which I feel like it kind of became later on. You know what I mean? Like,
such a dope as the show goes along. I mean, even when you make the joke when you're dealing with the Asgardian woman, right? Like, and I know you, like, that was something that you didn't like. Like, I thought that was funny. Like, that was a laugh out loud moment for me. He seemed like he was all with it in that moment. Like, that was the episode where I think we first met him or something to that end. But then once the shoe conversation happened, it was like flip switched, and then it's like, who is this guy?
So, he's like a New Yorker bro.
I had no problem with him being like that from the jump. Like, he plays it well, and it's funny, and they go with it the whole rest of the way of the show. So I kind of accepted it. But like, there were points taken off because it's just, when did this happen? And I don't think I was off on him being put together at first. And you obviously felt the same way.
No, I got that vibe as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a little bit strange for me. But it was pretty much her dad and Charlie Cox, and then Bruce to some extent are the only guys in this show that are. The Taylor, Taylor too. I mean, he gets pissy, but at the same time, like, understandably.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think so. And again, this was, I believe Jessica Gao came out and said this. This was all kind of to be like a shot at the internet trolls here. So that was kind of the idea of them being. I think the actual quote was like, she enjoyed the inner troll in her enjoyed coming out to troll the trolls, right? That was kind of like the play on words that she was using there, which, again, if you want to talk about the meta-ness, if this is a statement on trolling and internet trolls, and you yourself took enjoyment out of trolling the trolls, aren't you then commenting about yourself? If we're doing this whole kind of like meta commentary thing?
Yes. There's definitely trolling. Now we're talking about a lot of wall breaks again. And
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it gets confusing when you try to like be this smart. Like,
speaking of all that, like
real quick, I just got to get out this nice little comment here, because the best sign of being a teacher, right, is when you can explain the information in the simplest form possible. And if your whole point is to make this as convoluted and this deep message impossible, then you don't really get the show. Like, you, the writers, like you, the creators, like you, the people who are like developing this, Yeah,
no, that's a fair point. Like, it should just be, a true sign of a professional when it comes to teaching is being able to explain it to everybody at every level, even at the most basic level. So yeah, when you're going that far, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And when you come out with all these after things like, well, we were going for this, and we were doing this, and we're doing this, it's like, all right, then, like, why don't you just make a good show instead of trying to like own a group of people online and have like viral moments?
I'll tell you what, one area where I'm going to agree with you is on that front where, hey, if you want to go at these people, don't explain yourself. Like, that's my thing. Like, if you're going to do this, like, go for it. And I have no problem with it. Like, I'm not seeing all this commentary that you're talking about, but on that note about that commentary, if there's these people upset and they don't understand what you're going for, don't fucking explain it to them. Like that.
I'm pretty sure it's a Variety article. So if you or anyone at home, listeners at home, I think it was a Variety article. So it's a Jessica Gao Variety. I have it linked under the question there. So if you wanted to check that out.
But my thing is just, it's not like so much like not the research, just like, and I appreciate you doing the research, but like, if people don't understand it, like, I don't know, I'm sorry, if you're being interviewed, then handle it accordingly. Like, if you don't get it, like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not I'm not saying that, like, you know, some people can't understand it and don't need an explanation, but like for the people that you're trying to go after, don't go and placate to them. Go at them. That's my opinion.
Yeah, don't apologize, right? Yeah, I hear you.
That exactly. Don't apologize.
Don't do it and then apologize for it. Yeah, I hear
exactly.
Just
yes. Now, one thing I hate to backtrack, and I cut you off before, and I apologize. When we talked about the finale, I'm curious how you felt about the little X-Men note, because I did appreciate that we got that in there.
I guess. What did that tell you? Like, did they say anything, or did they just say when's the X-Men's coming? Like,
we're getting mention of the X-Men. I don't give a shit. Like, it's happening, and we just need to fucking move on.
I guess these things don't move the needle for me anymore.
Gotcha. I think they should just have all the news that the MCU wants to convey. Just have She-Hulk do it all.
Who do you think the show is for?
So, I think it can be for anybody but people who are like the intelligentsia, honestly. And I understand that. I get most things aren't supposed to be for everyone. That's the whole thing in show business, right? Whether you look at radio or television or movies, whatever, it's supposed to be for more a specific group of people. But I just like, I'm sorry, like I am not like, I guess you could, if you were going to say it's for one group, you'd probably say it's for women in some capacity. But I'm not a woman, and I enjoy this quite a bit, and I'm not alone.
I ask, no, I don't think you're alone at all, and I don't think you're a woman, so I think, you know, I don't think it's just for that, but I think it's going to be heavily skewed towards the woman audience here, right? Sure. But I don't have a problem. This seems like a very directed move in Phase 4 of MCU to expand their diversity. I think they said it as much, whether to have more female-led roles or, again, different diverse races or ethnicities or ethnic groups being represented in leadership. I think that's been a very clear turn. That's great. That's awesome. But I think when you do so, when you lift up one audience and by doing so, step on the other, it feels like it's kind of contradictory. Like, I think you can write great characters who maybe are underrepresented in whatever sort of genre without stepping on the others in the process. And I think that's what this show does, like, quite often.
I mean, I hear you. I just think I guess in the end, I just look at it. I don't know how they could have done it where it felt like it was more targeted at a specific group.
I don't think it had to be targeted to a specific group. You can have strong female-led that exude feminism and everything that you want, the messaging behind it, without it being, again, like, insulting to another group of people. Like,
this is true.
Right off the top of my head, Prey seems like a great example of that from the Hulu Predator movie.
Oh yeah, I still haven't watched that.
Got through about half of it, and I'm like, I'm in it. I love it.
Oh, okay. That was a movie.
Yeah. Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah, Hulu movie.
Yep. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I did hear that part. Yeah, no, I mean,
but you know, like, there's ways that you can do it without just being like, yeah, these men are all shitheads, and like I have to deal with them all the time.
I guess I don't know what to tell you. Like, there were moments where they're like making fun of those guys, and like I laughed out loud at it. I mean, maybe it's just because I just don't feel that way. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just like there's people out there, and I do think it's also funny to make fun of them. Like, it's very similar to like it's on a much smaller scale. Harley Quinn, the animated series, did this, I think, in season 2. Don't quote me on that, but there's a specific moment. No, season 1, I think, where you have a guy in a Snyder Cut shirt, and they take a shot at those people as well. It's one episode. It's like maybe a minute and a half long, something to that end. I think they come back to it at the end of the episode, maybe 2, but like it's on a much smaller scale. This was like a whole thing that they just did it. So
yeah, this was like a whole season.
That's all it was. Yes, it's all it was.
Do you think with what we've gotten from the Disney Plus show so far, that we should continue making or getting TV series, or maybe kind of do like an extended special release a la Werewolf by Night?
Have you watched that yet, by the way?
I have not, but again, I've heard good things, surprisingly good things. So
neither have I, but I do want to watch that before Halloween.
Halloween, yeah,
got to. I watched it outside of Halloween, but I want to see it during the spooky season. But look, I'm cool with a mix of both. I think Werewolf by Night, like, you're talking about a character that's been around. I mean, that's where Moon Knight got, introduced, but not a character that I give a shit about at all. Werewolves, like, that's meant for outside of the MCU by and large. But I don't have an issue with these stories. I think it's more of an issue of, like, we kind of touched on it before, like how the MCU went from this larger, like, story focused format in phases 2 and 3, and then almost completely shifted away with these shows. I think there should have been a blend and an easing in process. I think, like, when you mentioned that with Spider-Man, to me, it instantly clicked. Like, I get the Sony thing, and I forgot about it. But I feel like there was a natural progression that you could have had. I understand that COVID created some issues in it all, but to go from basically all these, from a event-based shit is what the MCU was. Like, and I mean that in, like, a comic book sense, like, it's all one big event. Then to now, like, all these individual mainline stories that have their own thing going on that don't tie into the event. That's what you did. And I'm sorry, like, that's a huge shift. I am willing to accept that kind of stuff, and I understand that most people aren't, especially when this is what you did and this is how you became what you are. So, to answer your question, Wes, I'm fine with both, but I understand the problem that people are having with the MCU shows.
Yeah, I think with what this is, like, 6th, 7th, 8th show that we've gotten at this point, right? Somewhere right around there.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So I think we kind of know that this is, like, kind of empty calorie Marvel, right? You're not really getting a whole lot. Sometimes you can, but it's not, you'll feel full for an hour, but it's not really giving you the nutrition that you need, right? And that might be the movies. However, I like this idea of going to a special presentation instead of making this a 6-episode, 40-minute show, whatever it is. Making it into a 2-hour movie that goes just on Disney Plus. That way, that's not as much, not a movie, but a special presentation. But that's like 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. I think that could be the way to go here, particularly with these solo films, and then maybe you have more of, like, the team up crossover stuff released in theaters, like maybe like 5-10 years down the road. I can just see that.
I could see
the path.
I could see that being the case, and I could just see them moving away from the show format in general, because as much as we have differing feelings on She-Hulk, I think by and large, you look at the MCU on a larger scale with the show, it's just been a lot of negative feelings, I think, from the fan base, no matter what it is. Like,
I would say the one show that you've been down on has been Loki, and that's the one that I feel like it has been the most critically, like, accepted.
Yeah, and again, like, when we look at what impacted the larger MCU story the most, it is unquestionable that it is Loki. Yeah. But I'm sorry, like, I just, like, the rest, like, other than that, it didn't do a whole hell.
Hey, you don't got to explain yourself, man. Your feelings are your feelings.
Right, but there's no doubt, and that's why. And again, when we talk about it, like, the MCU's, like, problem, that's what it is. Like, this is the expectation you've created, and you're trying to go away from it in, like, not just a smooth way and a cohesive manner. It's just, like, one to the other and tough.
Well, I'm gonna jump down here because I think this kind of gets into a little bit of what you're saying. I think so. What do you think will age the best here?
Well, I mean, I think when you look at, like, when you look at Daredevil, I mean, that I'm excited for that show no matter what. Yeah. Like, I don't care what happens. Like, I want that show, and then we can make him into a movie character all you want. That's fine. But I am very excited for Daredevil. I know you had made a note here, not to steal it from Wes, but that Charlie Cox had said how, like, this is not, Daredevil's not going to be this lighthearted moving forward, nor should he be. But I like seeing the range from him in the course of things.
I thought it pulled it off. I was wondering how that was going to kind of play, but I thought he did it really well. I thought that their interactions were pretty interesting. Although the ending felt kind of weird because I'm not sure how that's going to leave things off. Just how that works, But, so we'll see with that. But I thought Scar, you're setting up World War Hulk there. That was an interesting kind of cliffhanger, even though I know nothing about him at all. And again, I think I'll credit the show and the writers for. The Easter eggs and the deep pulls there of their characters. So I think that was some interesting stuff there. Some of the creativity with, swinging through the home screen, like we mentioned, or
yeah, that was
again,
nuts.
that opening intro kind of paying homage to the Lou Ferrigno live action Hulk, right? So I thought some of that stuff was cool. But again, I felt like there was some missed opportunities from my perspective that could have been improved upon it, even in that Easter egg range.
I think, though, when you look at this, that She-Hulk is the character herself is someone who could age very well from this series. Because everybody feels so negatively about the show, after the
Can
fact.
only go up. I see.
Can only go up from here. And B, I do think when you look at a character who's comedic, as much as, like a Deadpool can go and pull it off by himself, obviously Iron Man can be very funny in his own right as well. And again, I like She-Hulk, but I thought I would definitely watch another show if she got another show. But I think that she could do well in an accent role, whether she's going to be with Bruce or maybe we see her pop up in Daredevil in some capacity too. I think that what's her name? Tatiana. What's the actress's name?
Tatiana
Maslany.
Tatiana Maslany.
Tatiana Maslany. Like, I thought she was very funny. I liked her delivery, everything about her. Whether she was She-Hulk or Jen, I thought she did a great job. I think in an accent role, she will thrive even more so.
I wonder. I just wonder about that because I don't see her fitting in. I don't know where she fits in. We kind of talked about this a little bit at the top there, and I obviously with the Hulk stuff that makes sense. But like, she's in the West Coast. She's California, right?
Mm-hmm.
So West Coast event. But again, that's like nowhere to be seen. No, that hasn't really materialized yet. Yep. Like anyone in New York, you have Daredevil to kind of be like a lawyer now. So it wouldn't make sense for her to fly cross country. Fantastic Four she's involved with, but that's not really materialized yet either. I guess, but like, what does she do in a space situation?
Well, okay, so
I just wonder about how grounded she was. Like this is too small of a scale.
This is a somewhat of an aside, but I'm curious because this was a legitimate gripe that I was hearing from Lauren. I had no problem with like what the character looked like, right? Like in terms of she obviously grows, she's green, right? Whatever. But we actually, we talk about the Lou Ferrigno stuff, and obviously different actress comes in and plays this much more beastie looking She-Hulk.
It was a dude.
It was a dude?
Yeah, how about that for feminism? Yeah, it was a dude with Hulk boobs.
All right, well there you go. How do you think like maybe we're not the people who should be commenting on this? I don't know, but do you think that She-Hulk should have been a little bit more jacked than they made her about to be? Because like Lauren pointed that out, and I was like, it's a fair point. Like she's slim, like she could have been more jacked. Absolutely,
she could have. I think that could have worked. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. My biggest gripe, not with the transformation and everything, it wasn't with the CGI so much. It was the difference in the hair.
Gosh, yeah, that was something.
It's this long, straight hair, and she's got this curly, short hair. Like, where does that come from?
Yes, I don't know how that works. I will say they did talk about it, but like that was kind of like, huh?
Yeah, that was like one of the nice perks, right? That's nice.
Yes,
it's nice hair.
But
but you had that as She-Hulk aging the best. I think she's might age the worst here again, just for that reason. Because I'm not sure. It feels like this show kind of put her on the shelf. Like I put her in a box a little bit. Like I'm not sure how she gets used immediately. She doesn't have the cosmic powers. She's not like a scientist or anything like that. There's another lawyer that's more prominently featured in New York that's going to be popping up. So I just wonder. She's kind of off on an island a little bit.
Yes, I think when I say She-Hulk again. We're talking about like stock prices or whatever. Like she starts at the bottom and she's nowhere to go but up at this point. And I think that in a secondary role she could thrive, and people will grow to appreciate her more than they did after this series. I do think when we talk about what age is the worst, I do think her as a lead character is not going that's not going to happen going forward. I as much as I like the show, I think there's clearly a lot of negative backlash on it, and as much as I don't understand the ones and the twos, like a 5 and a 6, like that's a little different. Like especially if you go and have the issues with the 2 episodes like I did, like I can understand that skewing your score even more so. So like it's the backlash that you got there, and then some people aren't going to appreciate the meta. Like like there are people like us who can appreciate that kind of stuff, who are really so like we're neck deep into the MCU stuff. But then there are going to be other people who is just like like my sister-in-law, like she likes this stuff, but like she's like waiting to binge it, because actually a gripe that I heard from them was my sister-in-law, my brother, was the episodes were too short. They actually didn't like that.
Well, yes, that's interesting, right? Because they that's a timing thing that they're never going to be able to win with the majority of the crowd, right?
100%, never going to win.
That was one of my favorite things, mostly because I didn't enjoy what I was watching on screen, but that was one of the favorite things there. Also, I would just say some missed opportunities. We talked about the Easter eggs, the deep pulls, and how this show kind of lended itself to this like kind of fun way to look into the everyday life of the MCU. And unfortunately, we just got the everyday life of Jennifer Walters in the MCU, more so than her like actually going out into the world. I thought you could explore these really cool legal stories if you did make it 7 to 8 episodes, maybe 40 minutes in time frame here, where you have all these cool legal opportunities based on movies, like the 35 movies and properties that we've gotten in the MCU. You have this whole catalog, this whole world to play with here. They choose the far edges of the corners from the comic books to take out these characters for Easter eggs, which is, again, something I wasn't a big fan of. So if they did something like, I don't know, something to do with the Flag Smashers, a follow-up with them of what their fallout was like, the U.S. agent lawsuit, what's going on with him, like you're in the super agent law firm, the superhero law firm. There should be all this information coming in of like birds and like spies and, what's the word? Informants to come bring you all these cases that should be growing by the day as superheroes and supervillains grow by the day. So, the Black Widow Ronin victim injury lawsuits, like, wouldn't that be like something really interesting to hear? I don't know. Financial family issues, if you want to do something even smaller from the Snap. The Sokovia Accords, that we just got that mentioned in passing, but like these are all these cool ideas that you can play with. U.S. government working with funding heroes to set up, like Armor Wars and what their relationship is. Like, I don't know. I think that's a lot of really cool things for you to go down and play with.
I think every single one of those ideas was really cool. Like, you came up with a lot of really good ideas there. I don't think you could do all of them in the show, but I think if you did 2, 3 of them, did them over a couple episodes a piece, like I think those are some awesome ideas. Then you're becoming more of a Law and Order show, and I do think that you run into maybe some complications there. I don't know, but I do think that like
there's a legal show on every channel. You can do a legal show.
I know, but I was gonna say, like you could still have done that with at least one of these things, if not 2, and it's not the entirety of the show. I think those are some really good ideas that you could have explored in here. Specifically, I would probably say, if I had to pick 2, I'd probably go with the Black Widow Ronin stuff, and then probably the financial family issues from the Snap probably would have been the best stuff that you could have done.
And so easy, like stuff that you could have done. That still is like a real world issue of you helping people here. Because like, again, like I'm not sure that she's really like has her client's best interest at all throughout most of these courtroom sessions that she has. I mean, Blonsky goes back to jail, doesn't really fight for her client there. She loses her naming rights and then has to have another lawyer kind of come up and help her here. Mallory Book, very, very good job. I think Mallory Book's attitude and presence in the courtroom and just overall is how Jennifer Walters should have been. That's another gripe I would have had. Like I don't think we necessarily need to spend time on the origin story for She-Hulk here. What if we just jumped in to her already being She-Hulk? You have a quick flashback. Oh, this is how it's happened. Accident. But now here I am now, and I'm kicking ass. It's like a lawyer, we were talking about this, has a presence about them, right? They're tough to work with. They're demanding. They're on point. They have their shit together, you would think, right? If they're representing people. But from what you see is like from her, it's like she's not in control of anything. Like she's just kind of along for the ride. Everything happens to her, if I'm looking for legal representation, like I want someone who's going to take charge, take the reins, and like kick you in the balls. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's where part of the frustrations I think you have with the show, like you talked about off the top. I mean, I think that's part of the commentary that they're making with this show. It's like, even as this big hulking green woman who has all this power, like she's still like not in any control whatsoever of her life.
Is that what we want to see in superheroes? Is that like, again, like I think you're not you, but like you, the writers, are thinking too hard about this. You know what I mean? Like it just approach it like that. Like you box yourself in by trying to say this show is going to be about this, and then you have to shoehorn everything in around it to make sure it fits, even if it doesn't.
Again, I mean, like to me, it felt it made a lot of sense. Like it so like that again. This is one of those things where it comes down like where we differ.
Yeah, and again, like even like the episodic courtroom drama thing. Like there's I looked this up. There's precedent for this in the comic books here about like we see some sort of a reference to it, which I'll give the show credit for. They say, you know, when they're talking about the naming rights, it says, well, Doctor Strange and Thor don't have to, you know, copyright their names, and they're like, well, that's because they're their real names there. But you know, you have again movies, 35 movies to choose from here of history and precedent to check. Like, what about some legal case, like legal precedent that's been set in the movies, been like, well, no, according to Spider-Man versus blah 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 blah, like a previous case that's already been there. Like you can't do this. Like using stuff that happened in the MCU that presumably went on in a courtroom after the events of, and they're like, oh, there's some ruling on this now that prevents you from doing this. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I see, yeah, because as you're talking about it, like I'm starting to see a string of like, okay, you could spend, you know, let's say you want to do 30 minutes a piece instead of the 22 minutes that they were doing or whatever. You could go and spend half the episode on the courtroom case, and it could be like tail end or the important parts of a Flag Smashers case, and then the other half of the episode is spending towards the intelligentsia stuff, and then you're building up towards that more so that you can, like with Law and Order, where you have, you know, one half the episodes on this, half the episodes on, you know, the court case and whatnot. You could go and do something to that, and then play into those Easter eggs and where you're not reaching quite as much and getting in some of these cool ideas that you brought up, because they are really some good ideas.
It's just disappointing. I mean, if I can think of this stuff on my own, 5 minutes with, you know, a cup of coffee and a bowl, you know, like I have to have more faith in a writer's room.
That is an interesting combination. Can't say I've done that. Yeah. I
I
don't think I'm ready for that. You've seen it. I don't think I can handle that. Maybe someday I'll get on that level, but anyways.
What do you think the most rewatchable scene is, and why is it episode 8 with the Daredevil stuff?
It's all the Dare. So, okay. So I'm really curious how you feel about this. We get the Dare. Now, Lauren hasn't watched Daredevil, and that's on me. I gotta get her on that. We get the Daredevil. We get Daredevil in the mix. Obviously, all the comedy's great and everything, but then we get this tease that we're gonna get a hallway scene, and then it's like, yeah, you get a little bit of it, and then She-Hulk comes in and smashes. Did you appreciate that, or were you just like, what the fuck again with this?
No, I thought that was good. Again, okay. I like some of the meta commentary, but when it's not stepping on people in the process, like,
well, she kind of did step on people.
She did. Literally, she stepped on people. Metaphorically, yeah. I was okay with it though.
Okay, got it. All right. I think I maybe not.
I have a question here. I see your addition. I think that's a great one here for this next question. Who had the best performance by a side character? And is Nikki Ramos a side character?
Nikki Ramos can't be a side character. Well, okay.
She was great. I thought she was the most redeeming character from it.
We run into this complication all the time, and I don't want any input from the people on this one as much as we are the people's podcast, because we're never going to resolve this matter. Nikki Ramos is not one of the. Actually, you could argue she's probably the number 2 character in this show. But like you have, I'm also the one that says you have one lead male and one lead female. And everybody else side, right? So, so she's, I guess, a side character, but we also look at bit characters, which is how I kind of viewed this go around. Obviously, you listed off Nikki Ramos, Holloway, Jen's dad, Daredevil, and then Kevin. And then I also added Lulu to the mix. That is Patty Harrison's character, of course. You know, DSG fans, the woman from the Tables Lady, among other things, from I Think You Should Leave.
Yes,
she gets my
absolutely vote. Yeah, great. You know, definitely over the top 6-man heat check performance right there. Again, a little bit of love for Holloway. Because every time that he interacts with Jennifer Walters, he just seems so uninterested in whatever problem. Like, she always says, like, I can't take this case. I can't take this case because I got this problem or I got this problem. He's like, I don't care.
Yep.
You're doing it. This is what's happening. Like,
she's bringing
can't be bothered.
Yep, 100%. I think he played that role perfectly. I agree with you. I think Nikki Ramos was great. I think all of these. I think Kevin is probably he was fun, but when you look at, maybe it's just because he's a robot, I don't know. But like when you look at all these individuals that are in the mix, like probably Kevin and Jen's dad are probably on the lower end of the totem pole for me. But Daredevil was great. But I watched it, like Lauren. I don't think Lauren recognized Patty Harrison because she's seen the first season. I think you should leave. But I saw her and I'm like, this woman needs to be in that fucking role every time that it comes up in Hollywood. I hope that she gets still satisfaction from playing that role, but she plays it so fucking well. This just ridiculous, outrageous woman who just makes no sense. No one plays it better than her.
Yeah, top-notch stuff there. Real quick shout out for Jen's dad, who again I thought was like the only one who wasn't like completely homely of her extended family. All of the rest of her family always looked like trailer park boys, like trailer, like with like Coke bottle glasses, and they looked like weird, like the McPoyle, like from the McPoyle family, and It's Always Sunny. They looked like they were like offspring of them. But Jen's dad was somewhat endearing and embracing, even though I didn't always feel like Jen really cared about her family all that much. Didn't really get that. She seemed like she was really just annoyed by them and just needed them when she had to, but had to use them. But the dad seemed like he was really there. If none other point was on display when he was like, I don't care about the water pressure, or I don't care about the water shortage in the town here. We're going to be, I got water pressure for days. And he starts like spraying all the news reporters off.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's what you got to do with the dogs, Wes.
Yeah, get off my lawn. He had the get off my lawn moment.
Yes, he did. And not everybody gets to pull that one off well, so you missed your opportunity. Now to look back on it, I take back everything I said earlier. I'm not proud of you anymore.
Who lost the show, Nick? And why was it the writers?
So, well, I'm going to make a counterpoint a little bit later. So I think that in the end, the other option is She-Hulk as a character moving forward. Because it's more, I guess it's more the people who liked the show, like myself, because as much as you enjoyed the season, you got something that you liked, it's different, whatever. I don't think you're going to get anything like this again in the MCU. No way.
No, absolutely not. Again, I think she comes back as a character. If she does, she needs rebranding. It almost has to be a complete reboot. Not with the actress per se, but with how she has been, introduced in this role. I think it needs a little bit of a punch up here. She needs to have something go on between now and the next time she's introduced where she's a little bit more badass, because I don't see her in a crossover event where she's like really helping out.
I mean, she went pretty good. She fought Hulk pretty good, but I just think in the end, like, no matter what, you're just going to see less of her. So I don't even know if I don't think she's going to get that rebrand. I just think it's just going to be less She-Hulk. That's all.
But I also say the writers too, because again, they put together a really bad script, and then in spite of all of that, they scrapped everything that they had, and then they said, well, here is our meta thing. We're just going to rewrite everything. Nothing matters anyway. And then even to go one step further, they just pin everything on an algorithm. So as if everything that they wrote, that they talk about, because again, we all know writers love to insert themselves in the story, Nick. That's a great sign of writing. Journalism rule number 125, maybe. Always insert yourself into the story.
Yeah.
So we have this writer's room do that. And they say, no, it's not our fault. It's the algorithm's fault. It's Kevin Feige's fault. So they acknowledge in the show that the bad writing that's taking place. And then they say, oh, it's not our fault. It's Kevin. So then they just say the boss made us do it. So we had to do this anyway. We couldn't make the decision. Completely absolving themselves of any sort of blame. Again, the victimhood mentality here that bleeds over into the lead character a little too much is on display in the writers as well.
Well, and then to go into who won the show, I like I said, I'm going to make a counterpoint. I do think that when you look at the writers, I mean, I don't. I'm sorry. You said that was that was Nikki Ramos, the actress played Nikki Ramos, who was explaining the stuff after the fact, right? Or was it one of the writers that was explaining the stuff after the fact?
Wait, say it again.
The Variety interview that you were citing earlier. Who from She-Hulk was involved in that interview?
Oh, Jessica Gao, the lead writer.
The lead writer. Okay.
The creator. Yeah.
So that's tough for my counterpoint, because again, like I do feel like they came at the people that they wanted to. I had quite a few laugh out loud moments in the course of the show. I don't think in the long haul it's going to pay off well for the character, but I thought they did what they wanted to, and I understand your points on the meta commentary, but I also think
they absolutely did. Yeah, I'll give them credit for that. They did what they wanted to, and they did it. Whether we'll see if they backtrack overall. But I think
battle war kind of conversation.
Yeah. I think again, it seems to be weird to be at war with your fan base, but
I think it's not. It's a specific contingent of the fan base, and I think it's a contingent of the fan base that was already
again. I'm not sure if that's the best business move.
That could be true. Could be right.
I think it's bored out as this being the lowest rated Marvel product to date.
There's no question.
So do you win? What do you win there? A pat on the back for owning all the people, and you just get the lowest rated show. Maybe not get a season 2, although to be fair, most of these shows don't get second seasons.
Self-satisfaction. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's pretty masturbatory. I would say that. That's fair.
But also in the course of the show, I think Charlie Cox, I mean, again, I know he's only on the show for 2.5 episodes or whatever, but I mean, you get him back in the mix, and it's the dude has his fucking fastball. He's got this character. I understand that it's not typical Matt Murdock. It's a lot more lighthearted and everything, but in this accent role, he played it so well still, and I'm so excited to see him reprise this role.
You're a baseball guy, right? You're familiar with WAR?
I hate
wins above replacement.
It's the worst. It's the dumbest stat in the world.
Okay, here, but play with me here. So sure. We ran through the IMDb episodes here. This is an agreement with you. So we ran through the IMDb episodes here, and it turns out that Charlie Cox is actually worth, let's see, 1.3 IMDb points. That's his WAR. Because the Ribbit and Rip It episode was 7.8, far and away the highest rated episode after episode 1, 6.5.
Huh.
So that's his WAR, 1.3.
That's interesting. Okay.
For the season. Wins above replacement actors.
We need to start tracking this. We're going to create a whole Excel sheet. This is going to be our new thing. It's all we're going to do now. We're going to be the stat boys of the DSG.
Absolutely. I like it. We're a couple steps there already. So I like that as well. So we have who won the show. I say no one here. And just as a last question before we wrap up, because we are going long as a crow flies, but there's a lot to be hashed out here. We had some feelings,
There were.
How much, if any, pressure is on Black Panther? I feel like I asked you this about Thor Love and Thunder too before that, but after what's been released in Phase 4 so far.
And I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I know that we've had this conversation. I know that Joe has said things. I feel like I've heard it from Mac and maybe one of the Dork Boys. I could be wrong about those latter two, but I feel like this is just everybody keeps saying there's a lot of pressure on this in the MCU. There's a lot of pressure on that in the MCU, and it's just you guys are gonna keep saying that for another year and a half. If it doesn't do exactly what you want it to. I'll tell you this right now. I think if you're looking for a larger MCU story to move things forward in the whole grand scheme of things in Wakanda Forever, I think you're going to be disappointed. Just saying, to alter your expectations a little bit.
Now, I'm going to push back on that. Now, I do think there's a decent amount of pressure, but I think it's going to live up to it. I think it's going to live up to the hype and expectations. But I'm going to push back on moving the story forward here, because look at what we got already announced just based off of this movie here. So we have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So that's going to set up Ironheart, which is going to already has her own series or whatever it is, some sort of property announced. I believe 2 other Black Panther properties in Okoye and then like Wakanda, right? I think there was 2 or at least 1. Maybe they're being folded in together, but whatever. So that you have 2 there. Then you also have, all right, so maybe you have Namor. Maybe he gets his own thing going on, right? Whatever. Maybe he gets his own movie. But I think more than all of that within that world of Black Panther, beyond that is, this is just my opinion here, I think you get the introduction of Doctor Doom, which is then going to set the scale for your next big bad at some sort of level, earthly big bad, moving forward. So I think I hear what you're saying. I think this could be a very contained movie, but I think this will push things along maybe a little bit more than what you're saying.
Okay. I want everybody to hear. I'm not telling you guys how to feel, but I would just like you all to take note of how Wes was pointing out things that he's estimating. He does not sound immensely invested in it. He's making points. I don't think I hear you say that, and that you're going to be disappointed if you don't get that, right?
Just my opinion.
No, but I'm saying you're delivering it in such a way where I'm like, oh, that could happen, but I don't get the impression that you're going to be immensely disappointed if you don't get that. Am I wrong?
We'll see. I think at this point, I would like to see Dr. Doom introduced.
It's the 603s that are getting to me now. It's an hour 40. We're going a little along. That's what it is.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you live free up there, you know. So that does it there. So I think we'll get some good conversation.
I
thought we stayed very cordial, you know, much like my neighbor and I. I think we had a good little conversation, good little chat.
I'll tell you what. There was a point where we started doing like getting more cordial when we were coming from opposite ends of the spectrum. This is the most opposite end of the spectrum we've come, I think, on anything. And
I think so.
I'm very pleased about it. I feel
we're growing up, Nick.
I feel like I'm growing when we have these conversations more because I'm hearing you in a different way and appreciating it more, and it's pushing me to be a better, master debater. So it's helping in my
on a masturbatory topic. So it fits.
This is true, and it's helping me in my Esk Fryer or my practice as an Esk Fryer too. So thank you.
Hey, no problem. This was such a cordial debate. I tell you what, I'm going to buy your ticket on the last train out of here from the discharge depot. All aboard! Honk, honk.
So I'm going to keep it quick on my things. Finished Kevin Can Fuck Himself. This was the second season and the final season. In the end, like I'll probably give it like a 75-ish. I was very high after the first season, but just felt like it could, like there was some stuff that was rushed. They wasted a lot of time in the middle of this show where they could have explored some more later on. Some of the stuff in the last episode was really well done. Kevin puts on there's an interesting shift for the character, and I think he does a great job in that bit, but I would have liked more of it. My cousin got married this weekend, so I had a fun time at the wedding. And then what is it? Eliza Schlesinger? I think
it's Eliza Schlesinger.
Was watching her latest Netflix special before we got on the show. I didn't get to finish it, but it's absolutely gold. But
I think she just appeared on Rogan as well, so I think she was promoting that. Yeah.
Oh, now I know you have a Netflix thing to talk about. I do want to hear about it, but breaking news as the show's going on. It looks like that Warner Brothers Discovery wants Henry Cavill's Superman to return to return for a second Man of Steel movie. I guess they're actively searching writers right now. But that's
look at that. See, we said last week that he might be open to a new role there, in addition to the Black Adam appearance there. So very cool stuff.
Yep.
I binge watched her, very out of character for myself. The Watcher on Netflix. So it's a series. Bobby Cannavale, Naomi Watts, a couple other people. Shooter McGavin's in it. Pretty big cast, to be honest with you. And it's based on a true story. A little bit of spookiness there. It takes place in New Jersey. I think it's Westfield, New Jersey. But it's based on a true story. It's about this house that's haunted, and the whole town's very creepy. And they get these letters that say all this weird like blood sacrifice, and I'm watching you, and like stuff about the house, and it's very, very eerie. 7 episodes. The wife and I plowed through it all weekend, and loved the ride, hated the ending. And I'll say that, not to spoil it for anybody.
Okay. What do you give it in a grade, do you think?
Again, really enjoyed the ride. So I would say it's about an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
7, 8 or 10. Yeah.
Yeah. The story's interesting surrounding that.
Well, yes. Yeah, so I think the only thing that's really true about it are the letters that they got. And that is very spooky because at least in real life, they never found out who wrote them. So
that's fucked up. But I mean, I did want to give this a look, so maybe we will do it. But good to know.
It's worth a watch. Definitely worth a watch. It's kind of like a whodunit feel murder mystery type, but like no one's murdered. You're just trying to find out like who's writing the letters, that's kind of the thing. But there's like all these different marks in there who you could be like, it's this one, and then like 2 minutes later, like no, it's this person.
8 out of 10, cool. And it's a disappointing end, but a great ride. That's very interesting. I'll have to report back on this one. Hopefully, watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was on its way to being a 10 out of 10 for me, but like. Yeah, I don't binge watch 20
points.
Anything like that, And this was probably like an hour, 40 minutes a piece, 7 episodes.
I'm sorry, each episode was an hour and 40 minutes.
No, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, like in that range. Sorry, no, we're talking Stranger Things stuff that I still even haven't finished yet. So,
excuse me, pardon me.
But The Watcher, recommend it.
Yeah, The Watcher. All right, that means it's time for This Week in
Shared Universe.
Did that just glitch a ton on you right there?
Yeah, I feel like it usually does.
Yeah, okay, but it's Billy's fault. Anyways, speaking of Billy, I think the entire DSG is talking about the same thing this week. Hashtag Dork, She-Hulk. Mac and Goo, She-Hulk. People for Communism Podcast. I think they're doing She-Hulk. I mean, maybe. Billy likes She-Hulk, so I don't know.
What's TLD German?
I don't know. I got nothing funny. And then TLDR, we are not talking She-Hulk this weekend. We are talking comics only a little bit, but we're actually going to be doing a little TLDR DW, talking about a show that no one else in the DSG is talking about, Rings of Power. Very excited to dig into that with the other Billy D. I've heard it both ways. I don't know where they are in season 5 right now because they've had a lot of pauses because of travels and different things going on. Doc and Billy D are like men of the world. They
are regular Renaissance men. They're all over the place.
Hardcore troubadours. And then of course you can find Doc on Twitch at Backracka and Shime. I saw him twitching recently. He's back over there at Shime Time. And then Davey and Keith are doing their twitching only on the hashtag Dork YouTube page. Although I don't know how much they're doing these days. And we mentioned earlier what we're doing next week, right, Wes?
Yeah, we're doing Black Adam. So, better or worse.
Don't say same time, same place, because we're going to be moving things up a little bit. We're going to be more in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. We're going to spend some schedule changes on my end and Wes.
Right at dinner time. Dinner time. So, right when you're cooking up dinner, fire up the iPad and we'll sit down with you. Maybe send us a plate.
Yep.